In this lecture, we're going to see how we can debug our C++ programs through the Microsoft Visual Studio IDE. This is different from the Visual Studio Code we have been using all along. These two tools are from Microsoft, but they are two different things. In this lecture, we're going to be using the IDE, not the editor. The program we're going to be debugging is the same program here. We're going to be basically setting up a breakpoint here, and we're going to see our functions called, we're going to see the local variables, we're going to see the call stack, we're going to see all kinds of crazy things. So let's head over to Microsoft Visual Studio and see how we can do this. Okay, here we are in the Microsoft Visual Studio IDE. I have the project already loaded in here, and what we want to do is to debug this application. The first thing you need to do is to set up a breakpoint, and we're going to go to our line 12 here. This is where we set up our breakpoint, and we're going to go in the getter here where you see my cursor, and I'm going to click. The moment I do that, this is going to set up my breakpoint here. If you want to start debugging, you will need to go to the top here and hit start debugging, and or you can hit the F5 button. This is going to start your debugging session. If we hit this, this is going to build the program, and it is going to run that through the debugger, and we will have a terminal window here. So this is what we have seen in other tools that we have used so far. So we're going to bring this to the right a little bit here, and we're going to look at some things we can look at as we are debugging. You see, the breakpoint has been hit. I don't know if you can see this, but we have a yellow arrow in our red breakpoint here. So that's going to mean that we have hit this breakpoint here. If you go down here, you see that you can watch the call stack. We can see that the main function is to the top of the stack. We can see our breakpoints if we want. We can go to the left here and see our watch expressions. I have one already set up here, but if you want, you can click on it and right click and hit delete watch here, and it is going to go away, and you can add that in if you want yourself. So you can say summation and greater than 10, and if you hit enter, you're going to see that this is going to be added, and it is false now because summation, if we look at our local variables, it has a junk value. It's not even initialized now. So what we want to do is to use the buttons on top here to really manipulate our debugging session. For example, we can stop debugging, we can restart our debugging session, we can step into, we can step over, or we can step out of a function if we want that. Now this line here is going to call the sum function. So what we want to do is to step into the sum function. The moment we do that, execution is going to jump to the sum function as you see here. The local variables are from the sum function as you see here. We have x and y, which are local variables to the sum function. We have the result variable, which is going to contain junk by now. If we hit next here to step into, we're going to go executing the line containing the result variable here. If we hit next again, you're going to see that now result is 22, which is the sum of 10 and 20, the two variables that we passed in here. Now we're going to be executing the adjust call that we have here. If we hit next, we're going to jump into the adjust function, and we can keep hitting next, doing and executing this expressions here. For example, here you see that the adjustment variable contains a 2, and we are about to execute the input line here. If we do this, we're going to see that input is going to change to 22, and this is going to affect the result variable that we are referencing from the adjust function here. Let's hit next and see that you see that input has changed to 24. Now, if we hit next, we're going to jump out of the adjust function here, and it is going to be popped off the stack. You see the adjust function is to the top of the stack, but if we hit next here, you're going to see it popped off. Now, the sum function is to the top of the stack, and if we keep executing, we are also going to pop it off the stack, and that's going to bring us into the main function to this line here. And at this point, we're going to see that summation is no longer 10. Summation is going to contain the return value from the sum function here. If we hit next, we're going to see that summation is going to become 24. And now if we go to our watch, we're going to see that summation greater than 10 is true. This is how we can use our watch window. If we come back to our locals, we're going to see the variables we have in there. A is still 10, B is still 12. Now summation is 24, and we can keep hitting next to start printing our value we have in summation here. And if we keep hitting next, we're going to end our debugging session. The main function is going to end, and we're going to end our debugging session. This is really how you can use the Microsoft Visual Studio IDE to debug your applications. This is going to be using the debugging tools that come with the compiler from Microsoft. And it is really what we have seen all along. You're just going to have to set up breakpoints. And once you start debugging, you're going to have the watch window, you're going to have the call stack, you're going to have the watch window. And you can really use all these tools to make your debugging experience as flawless as you can. We are going to stop here in this lecture. In the next one, we're going to try and debug an application that has some features we have seen in our journey to learn about C++. The program is going to contain loops, pointers, and arrays, and we're going to see how we can follow the program and really see what it is doing under the hood. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me in the next lecture.